Okay, hello guys, it's Marina and I'm back for another video. Um, it's not clickbait, but let me just try to be right up front how to win every debate. Um, the first thing that you want to know is that you're winning a debate in a search for truth. Now, when I there's a few simple techniques, and I'm going to just kind of go real high level today, and then I'm going to maybe in another video I'll break it down a little bit further and give some actual real life examples of how to win every debate. Now, not every debate has to be about left or right. It doesn't have to be about politics. It can be about other things. But if you're searching for truth and if you're living in truth, then these techniques, they will work. Um, one of the things that I've realized, and I actually realized this several years ago, probably even before I made my first walk away video, which was back in the year of 2000, so over 4 years ago. And I've been saying that the Democrat Party, the Democrat establishment, they do not have any actual natural constituents anymore. They have gone so far off the reservation that there is no one that actually knows and fully understands what they stand for. And this is according to their own either actions or words or both, that actually knows what they actually stand for, how they govern, and says, yes, I'm on board with that. There is no one. And when you compare that to the people who are just anti-Trump or never Trump, most of the information that they're going off of to base or form that opinion or that sort of emotional reaction is based on information that's not true. And I've found this not only in my own life and people that I talk to in debate, but also people who I see online being interviewed and they're asking, you support Kamala, why do you support her? I maybe have seen one or two people who can even give a coherent answer to this at all. And listen, the people who show up at her rallies that are standing in line waiting to see her, her most enthusiastic supporters, these should be the people who are most able to relay her message and speak to other people about being able to vote for her and why they should vote for her. And they're not able to do that. Now, if you're ever either talking to someone or you're watching someone be interviewed and they have what I call a brain glitch, the reason that happens when they're just like, I can't talk to you, I can't talk about this anymore, they start projecting and accusing you of trying to manipulate their words, when oftentimes there's been no such type interaction that's been had. It's in their own head. They're in their own head starting to understand that their words are all jumbled up, and they can no longer articulate what they thought they believed because they hear it coming out and it doesn't make any sense. So oftentimes that will cause a person's brain to glitch out. That's what I call it. I don't know what else to call it. Their brain will glitch out and all of a sudden they cannot talk anymore. They don't have anything else to say. And if you're interviewing somebody standing in line at a rally, it's very easy for them to get away with that. But you're probably going to encounter this with some of the people in your own life. Now, listen, I understand that it's very difficult to be engaged in contentious arguments with people who are in your own inner circle, people, your family, the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. But these techniques I'm going to give you, they will allow that person to have that battle, that argument, that dialogue first in their head before they have to have it with you. And so I'm going to give you some of the common phrases that I hear people say to defend where they are and how you should respond to that. Okay? Let's start with first one. Donald Trump is going to enact a nationwide abortion ban. Your response should be, well, how do you know that? Now, we know he hasn't said that, right? So the first thing they're going to have to do is you haven't accused them of being wrong. You haven't gone into any kind of argument with them. You're just simply asking them, well, how do you know that? And here are some of the responses you might get. I mean, you may not get any response at all. The most common thing that's going to happen in a situation like this is they're going to jump to another topic. Okay. But don't let them jump to another topic. Okay? You'd be like, no, 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 wait, we can talk about that in a second. First, you just said that Trump was going to institute a nationwide abortion ban. How do you know that? Where did you get that information from? Now, what's going to probably end up happening is you go down the court, they're going to tell you, well, I heard, well, Project 2025, this, that, the other. And you let them go through that. And most of the time, they're going to start to filibuster at some point. They're not going to want to let you talk. That's okay. No, let them filibuster. But always stay clear in your mind. And when they're done with the filibuster, always come back to the first point. Okay, that's all fine and good, but I'm still stuck at why you think Donald Trump is going to institute a nationwide abortion ban. I'm slow. Help me catch up. A little bit of self-deprecation there, okay? I'm not getting it. I understand because I've listened to a lot of his speeches. I've heard this, I've heard that, and he said outright that he does not want to do that. He's wanting it to go to the states. And he even said in some cases that some states are more liberal than he thought that they would be, and other states are more restrictive than he thought that would be. But at the end of the day, the people are voting. It's at the state level. It's not a federal issue. He's already said, no, he will not sign a nationwide abortion ban. Okay. He would not sign that law. He said that. He's been asked and he said that. And there are some Republicans who want that. So he said that, no, he's not going to do that. That's not something that he supports. So what they're probably going to tell you is that he's actually lying. That if you can even get them to go that far at all, they're going to say, well, he's lying. And then you're going to ask them again, well, how do you know that? And let them answer. And if they go off on a tangent, let them finish, depending on how much time you have, let them finish on their tangent and go right back to where they last got stuck. Okay, that's fine. But you said that he was lying about the abortion ban. And we can talk about, his rhetoric in a minute, and some of the things that he says. But first, I need to get caught up on how do you know that he's lying about the abortion ban? Like, what's your basis for that? And maybe you'll get an answer, maybe not. If it's because some other politician said so that he's lying, then you're going to challenge them. So you know for sure that this person is telling the truth and he's lying. And after that, because now they've got to choose which politician they think is telling the truth and which one they think is lying. And as we know, for most career politicians, Donald Trump may lie about some things, but it's most of the things that they're calling lies are not actually lies. They're more hyperbole or, something like that. He's being hyperbolic, but most of the things, or they're things that he may actually believe, which let's keep in mind, that's not a lie. If you believe something, you may not know the truth. You may be ill-informed, but it's not a lie. A lie is deliberate and intentionally misleading someone. That's my definition. And I'm going to make a separate video about how to make sure that you define terms. If you have some question or doubt as to whether or not they understand what a lie is, you can probe that. You can be like, so when you say he's lying about the national abortion ban, are you basing that on your belief that he just lies about everything? Not based on any kind of pattern of lying that you found, okay. I was watching a video. It was an interview. I wish I could remember who. If I am able to remember or bring that back up, I will link it. Where someone was asking about Puerto Rico, and he was in line. He was interviewing people that were in line for a Kamala rally, and they made all kinds of they just totally trashing Donald Trump for quote unquote how he handled Puerto Rico. Now, I don't know a whole lot about that, but I do know that at one point we found in Puerto Rico that they had been hiding hurricane relief stuff in a warehouse just so that they could make it look like Donald Trump had not been providing aid to Puerto Rico. I'm going to make a whole separate video about Puerto Rico because is the United States a colonizer? Is Puerto Rico a colony? I thought we were against that. Anyway. I digress. So, but then when they started talking about where Puerto Rico is now and or the hurricane in North Carolina, she starts making all kinds of excuses. Well, it's still early. Like it was crazy how within 30 seconds she went from throwing out a whole bunch of weird things that she believed that Donald Trump had done and things that she implied. People listen, people stop reading an insult into things that are completely benign. He was tossing paper towels and somehow that was demeaning. Seriously? Come on. And so that's one of the first techniques that you can use to make sure that you're winning the argument. And sometimes one of the things that I learned about this technique, by the way, is it allows me to learn as well without having to worry about ego. Now, I don't really have a whole lot of ego. I'm not the kind of person that can be like pretending that I'm still right, even though I realize that I'm wrong. That's not something that I do typically. But by asking questions like that, before you like throw down the gauntlet on your own opinion about something, you have a chance to solicit from them information that they have and see if they have some information that you don't have. I'm a former liberal, so I became a conservative over time, but I became a conservative over time by not allowing myself to live in denial. In some cases, I worry that I don't have enough of the quote unquote denial defense mechanism to give me the protection that I need for, because it exists for a reason. I've always said that I believe that denial is kind of a God-given defense mechanism to protect you, emotionally until you're strong enough to handle it. So if sometimes you'll have a loved one that dies, it can be, untimely and denial, like, I can't believe they're gone. I can't believe they're gone. It's just to give you a little bit of time when it's not so raw to figure out how to deal with, okay, this person's gone. How am I going to move on without it? Now, that's my analysis of the purpose of denial, but I just like straight outright have never been able to have any kind of denial. And oftentimes it's very painful to have to deal with a loss, or, a loss, a breakup, whatever the case may be, and not have that period of numbness where I can just not have to feel it, sort of that natural life anesthesia. I just don't have it. I've learned to live with that now. But for a time period, that was actually very difficult, not having that. So because I didn't have that, if you've seen my walk away video, you know that I left the Democrat Party one failed policy at a time. I would support something that sounded like a good idea, sounded like a compassionate idea, and then it either wouldn't work or it wouldn't actually be done. And I'm like, well, again, I don't, to me, credibility either is or it isn't. I don't believe in partial credibility, not really. Either I trust a person and trust that they're going to operate with integrity, or I don't. Now, I typically do not expect politicians to operate with integrity. I don't see Republicans as being that much different than Democrats. It's certainly not historically. We're getting some in now that are better because their job is to be accountable to the people who elected them. And if they're not elected by the voters and they're elected by other interests, or if they feel beholden to other interests, then we're not able to control them. And the only thing that I will say about Republicans versus Democrats is, at least at this point, Republican voters have more control over their politicians than Democrats do. Democrat voters have no control over their politicians whatsoever. I mean, look what they've done. I would say, for me, the last 3 primaries were rigged. And maybe it was even rigged back all the way to 2008. I don't know. I remember there being a lot of whole super delegate kind of talk that had to do with Hillary Clinton versus Barack Obama. I truly believe that in 2016, were it not for the DNC intervening, that Bernie Sanders would have beat Hillary Clinton. So I do believe that it was rigged for her. And absolutely, I believe that 2020 was rigged for Joe Biden. I do not believe that he was on his path to victory. And I mean, forget about even the very end things. Like, look at the way that they treated people like Tulsi Gabbard. The people that they didn't want in, they didn't want in. She most definitely, to me, had the most grassroots the most grassroots campaign. And I believe that if she had been allowed to do what Donald Trump did, she probably would have been able to win the nomination in 2020. And I mean, I think it says to me that they didn't think they could control her. They thought that she would be more accountable to voters than she would be to special interests. And maybe that's true and maybe it's not true. I don't know. I think that, you know, the one thing I will say about Donald Trump and what he did and why I supported him in the primary, and I'm going to do, well, you've seen my video about voting, but I am still a Trump supporter. So make no mistake, I am a Trump supporter. That understanding the apparatus that they are up against at this point, and knowing that he is tested and has passed, more or less passed the test of being under absolute constant attack by the deep state, that's important. And I would like to see him finish the job of dismantling that, so that our future leaders, they need to be strong and they need to be independent minded, but they don't need to be afraid. They don't have to endure the kinds of attacks that he endured. You know, he's literally taking a bullet for not just the country and, you know, but for the future of the country, for the future presidents of the United States, and for future people who want to run for the presidency. I truly feel like our politics has been hijacked by people who are flawed in ways that should disqualify them. And decent people don't want to run for office because they don't want to be smeared. Look at what's happening to Mark Robertson in North Carolina. If you're not familiar with that story, he is suing CNN because they ran a smear campaign on him that appears, you know, it appears to have been all based on fake information. It's absolutely insane. So when you're having these conversations with people, the first thing you want to do, how do you know that? Where did you hear that? And challenge them to that, so that you allow them to, you know, I do a lot of volunteer work on legal cases. And a lot of times I'm kind of jumping in if a person just lost their attorney, or if they have a brand new attorney who's trying to get up to speed. And I tell them, I'm like, if you're doing discovery in that case, I will help you set a trap for this person. I don't take on cases unless they are, you know, like, unless somebody, usually when a case comes to me, it's because it's an obvious, straightforward case. If you've seen my video about the gentleman who didn't get his deposit back, it's very straightforward, but there's games in court. I can't determine or help anybody win or lose. All I can do is help them present their arguments. And if you can present your arguments right, you can make them look really, really silly, even if you lose. And you can create a record that will help you in the future if it needs to get cleaned up. So I'm going to end this video a little bit shorter than normal, because I want to be able to make other videos covering other topics of how do you know that, and how to allow leftists to destroy their own arguments in their own head. It's quicker than trying to do it for them, where you make their brain glitch out because they're, you know, internal battles are protect your ego. So if they can have that internal dialogue in their mind without having to be embarrassed by realizing how ridiculous they sound, and some of them, like, let's be honest, I understand that it gets emotional, but some of them actually do sound absolutely ridiculous. If you can get them to do that in their own head, over time, I can tell you, I don't know anyone who's voting for Kamala Harris, and most of my inner circle are Black people, and I live in Southern California. That's supposed to be like the bluest of the blue. I don't know anyone who's voting for her. I don't know anyone who's voting for her. Everybody that I know is voting for Trump. And over time, they will, if using this technique, Well, how do you know that? Well, where did you get that? Well, what about this? I'm going to go over some of the other techniques in future videos. Over time, they have come back to me and started asking me questions and following up on conversations that we never really had, but they had it in their head based on thought-provoking questions. And I know this because some of them at this point have told me. Some of them don't have to tell me. I'm going to make a video about a very interesting story about, and I call him a friend. He really truly is a friend, but he became very demeaning when I challenged COVID. He's very highly educated. He's got a master's degree, and he's a very smart man. He's very smart. And I would venture to say that in most cases, he's the smartest person in the room. He's definitely smarter than me. But my instincts told me that something was off during that time. And for some reason, his instincts didn't. And so he was not having it with me telling him. And he's one of the few people that I let him get away with not. People don't have to come back to me and be like, you know what, you were right, I was wrong. I don't need that. I can tell. And so when they send me the signals and they start asking questions and they start kind of just repeating back the things that I kind of said when we weren't really having a discussion about it, that lets me know. And in some ways, I think that they're wanting to let me know, because if you're an intelligent person and you care about the image of your intelligence, for some of these people, they do different types of work where being an intelligent person matters. Being a thoughtful person matters. I think they want me to know that they're not stuck on stupid. And I'm not calling them stupid because, like I said, I know COVID was unusual. I'm not putting myself above anyone because I recognize that. I think everybody has different talents. And my talent is that just like I have a rock solid bullshit detector, it's off the scales. Like, sincerely, I do. I have that detector. And there's lots of things that I don't have. There's skills that I don't have. But that one I do have. And I'm happy to share it with people without trying to make them feel bad. So I try to preserve, when I was doing management in the corporate world, they were like, when you interact with your employees, make sure you always preserve their dignity when you're dealing with them. Don't berate people. Don't try to make them feel bad. And I try to adhere to that because I feel like in the long run, it's a much better way to get your message across. And, I'm sure it doesn't work on everyone. But I haven't found a better technique. So I can't wait to share more of it with you. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video. And if you like my content, subscribe to my channel. Leave any comments you like. If there's a particular subject matter that you would like me to cover on how to create that internal dialogue in people, I'm happy to cover it. I will be covering other ones, but if there's something specific that you would like to hear, something that you've heard from people and you would like to know, like a true back and forth of how to engage with them in order to get them to invoke that internal dialogue, leave that in the comments and I will try to get that out for you. Okay? I will see you in the next video. Bye.